Hello.
My greetings. Well met. Greetings, traveler. Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello and welcome to Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Friday, January 29th in the evening. Yes, we're a day late. It's my fault. Thank you to my co-host for being flexible. Joining from Gadsden, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Karazhan, California, we got Botticus.
I'm awake this week.
Hooray! It was funny last week, though. Did you listen after the show? Did you listen to the stinger?
I probably did, but forgot. Because in the period of time between then and now, I was very tired again.
Yeah.
But today, it just so happens that I'm awake, which is good.
I won't spoil the surprise because you can't listen to it right now, but I included a little something after the show. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you cut the ending that I said would have been better. That's what I focused on.
Sounds like something I would do. And from Undercity, Pennsylvania, we've got Edelweiss.
Hello.
Hello. How's your stream? Good stream? You're eating something. I'll come back to you. Yeah.
I didn't stream today. I streamed yesterday.
Oh. Well, you're eating something. I'll cut this all out. This isn't going to happen. I didn't even ask you. And Concede supported directly by you, listener. If you'd like to find out how you can support us, receive rewards from a turn, head to patreon.com/CoinConcede. You can also support us by leaving us an iTunes review totally free. Really helps other people find the show. Big thanks this week to Josh S., our newest patron, the host of the Buckeye Dads podcast, where he interviewed me. Go check it out. It was very interesting being an interviewee, not an interviewer. So, Josh, thanks for that, and thanks for your support of the show. Nenko, that's not a question. Yes, I am upset that you haven't already. Go buy Hades. Go do it. Yeah, I have a Hades podcast. Anyways, so Life and Ladder. Botticus, you've been playing some stuff.
A little bit. I think I was pretty close to 9K, so I played like 3 or 4 BGs and got up to 9K over the course of the week. Had told me to play Hearthstone, so I did.
I asked,
a little
not
bit.
Told.
Same thing. So yeah, I don't know. I'm doing pretty well in BGs, but I feel like if I invested a lot more time, I could be higher rated, but my time is invested in other things at the moment. So just kind of when I get a chance, I jam some games, and they've been mostly going pretty well. It's one of those things where we'll probably talk this more in depth on a Bob Concede at some point. But while I like the meta, I also wish it would change because I miss the times where leveling up before 7 gold was very dangerous, and it doesn't feel dangerous right now. And all the heroes that are really powerful right now are ones that just hit the level up button as fast as they can and don't get punished for it. So I kind of want to go back to a time where the early game mattered a lot more, because it seems like everybody just turbos into the late game and then you get crushed by some comp. Because like I played a game I was talking about before the stream where I was Elise and I got a Caligos on turn 9 or something and still got second place because I chose between Caligos and Ragnaros, and then a Ragnaros showed up in my in the treasure that you get that discovers the minion from the Tavern tier that you're on. And so I probably could have scaled a lot more with double Ragnaros, but I had Caligos Ragnaros, which don't synergize super well together. But still, I don't know. I've been doing well. I'm pretty much trajectory has been mostly up with very few losses, so feeling good about that. And then I pulled an Edelweiss because I think it was either Tuesday or Wednesday. I read this Reddit post that, well, this isn't the full Edelweiss because she makes her own decks, but it said this is the best deck in the game. And it was some Paladin deck that played Tip the Scales, and I was like, "Oh, this deck is sweet." And the first game I played it, I played a dragon on turn 4, and then I went, oh man, the 3. Oh, why do I'm so bad with card names now?
Bunny.
The 4 mana 3/6. That when you
Allura.
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 High Abyss
Yeah.
Allura.
Yeah, it was just like Allura secret that I got from Wandmaker, and then I was playing against a Demon Hunter, so the Demon Hunter was thanking me because I just gave them 10 mana, and of course they played Skull and played 6 creatures, and I just killed all of them. I killed all of their creatures and they died the next turn. And I was like, this is the greatest deck ever because I killed my nemesis. And then the next day, the Discord's just going off about Paladin, and I was like, oh, I don't want to play it anymore because everybody's playing the deck now. So that was my advice: is everybody's playing it now. I'm not interested. Give me Ike Spellmage or whatever deck it was. And
Oh
then
yeah, Ike's Burn Mage.
I want to try that one now.
Yeah, that
I
deck
haven't
is
had
worse.
a chance to, but
It's worse, but it's fun.
Yeah. But
yeah.
it beats up on Paladin, which everybody's talking about and is supposedly popular.
Sure
But
Yeah, but Paladin's
I
like
don't know.
it's Paladin's really good. What did you get out of Tip the Scales again? Remind me.
It's like a 2 mana 1/4 Rush Wind Fury Murloc.
Crab Rider.
Crab
Yep.
Rider. You get Crab
Rider.
Riders and Fishy Flyers.
And
Wait,
2
what'd you say?
Fishy Flyers.
What'd you say?
Yep.
Gosh, darn it, Hat. Ha, ha, ha.
Wow, that Fishy
It
Flyer
made
card
a
seems
deck.
really good.
Yeah, are
Amazing.
you happy that Are you happy about the deck that it made it into, Hat? Are you happy about the state of the deck that it's
It's
in
only because we're
Paladin?
not paying mana for them.
I'm kind of
Yeah,
happy.
literally.
Listen, sometimes you got a curve stone with that deck, and I'm not saying we win those games, but I'm saying sometimes you go Fishy on 4 and then Spectral on 5. I've been there.
Honestly, the hardest hands to beat from the Freeze Mage perspective are the ones where they just start playing Murlocs on curve.
Yeah, there's something to it. I will say, yes, Fishy Flyer is only in that deck because of the multiple broken interactions, but sometimes you gotta play it honestly, and it's a good enough card when you play it honestly. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I would disagree to that point that it is a good enough card, but it is acceptable in the loosest of terms. It's something that is in the deck for specific reasons, and then sometimes those reasons don't come up and you have to play it. But anyway, yeah, played some of that Paladin. It was good for the first couple games, and I was like, this is the greatest deck ever. I can't wait to talk about it in Discord. And then I lost a bunch of games in a row. But I think I also lost those games because the list that I had this 1 mana card that gives both players 4 armor.
Armor Bender.
And multiple games afterwards, my opponent did not die because they had the amount of armor that I gave them over the course of the game. So that was questionable. And then I was like, why doesn't this deck play First Day of School? And then I realized why the deck doesn't play First Day of School, because that would be not a very good combo with Tip the Scales. And
Or with Allura.
yes.
Yeah, it's there have been a few times where I've thought about like this deck would be so much better with Libram of Justice. Oh, nope, you can't do that. This deck would be so much better with
Yeah.
First Day of School. Oh, nope, can't do that. So yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon. The Decksplanations this week is all about covering the crazy stuff that's happened in this meta in the past week, and it took a few days for development to really start happening. Because I remember last week everyone was like, it's just the old decks with a couple new tricks. That is not the case now. That is very much not the case. Edelweiss, you've been streaming, you've been playing a lot. What you been up to?
Oh wow. I have played so many different kinds of decks. It's kind of absurd. I think yesterday I was playing some of the Freeze Mage because of the Paladins, and I eventually switched to Karibo Druid, which is referring to Gibberer.
Oh,
or
Gibberling. Yes. Yeah, that
but
deck is
for those who understand the Yu-Gi-Oh reference.
I don't.
They look so similar, Hat.
I
Karibo was
believe you.
just
I
a
don't know
little
what a
fluff
Karibo
ball of
is.
a card.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. Well, anyways,
Okay, they do look similar.
it's a very, very fun, very fun deck. And I messed around a ton with Warlock. I still don't really know where I am on that. Zoo seems to be establishing itself as a pretty good counter for, just anything that takes a little too long. Such as sometimes you get a big enough board that you kill the paladins if they don't quite have the nuts. But I feel like the paladin always has that asterisk of as long as they don't have the nuts, you can counter them. But if they do, it could be quite challenging.
Proby1, thank you for the 5 gift subs. You're spoiling us. Spoiling. Yeah, it's Warlock. I will say the most fun I've had so far with the deck that is not real is the Turbo Prime. Where you just try and get as many primes in your deck as possible. The first game I played with it, I got 18 primes in the deck. Because you
quest complete.
Yeah, you either raise dead the Envoy Rustwicks, or you play Conrathod Prime, who gets back demons, and also there's Vectis in the deck, and the only death rattle is Envoy Rustwicks. So you just get so many primes. It's goofy, but the deck is definitely on the tier fun deck. It's tier fun, but it's a lot of primes. It's very enjoyable. Oh yeah, and there's Philosophy. That's right, Steve. Yeah, there's something there, but it feels like it's close, and it does have good removal. And Hysteria is a crazy card, even after the nerf, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it's just really good at clearing messy boards.
Yeah, I'm happy that the nerf happened. I tried the Tiller OTK deck one time just to try it myself. Takes a while because they don't actually explode until it hits the cap, which is not great.
Yeah, it's just a good reminder to take breaks. So you do the combo, and then you go make a sandwich, or you go take a nap, or
mow the lawn,
read a book. Read a couple pages of a book, and then look back, and they're still at 15 or 14 because it's in increments of 2, and then
now
read another chapter.
I had a very enjoyable variation on that was in duels where I was happy it played out because my opponent deserved it. So I had a Twilight Runner with 3 cards left, and they were Priest, and they had the hero power of make 5/0/1, like they had a bunch of 0/1s. So they had 5 0/1s in play, and I had a Twilight Runner, and they Hysteria'd my guy. And the 4th hit was enough to kill me, but the bug with Hysteria is that it doesn't stop if you're dead in the middle. So if all 5 hits had hit and I hadn't been dead, it would have stopped. But because I died in the 4th hit, it attacked the 5th minion until it hit the cap of 30 attacks. So I think I took 1,525 damage from fatigue. It was a lot of damage. And it was the coolest lethal I've seen in a while. I didn't even mind dying. I just let it go, and I was like, I don't want to see where this gets to. Very entertaining. So yeah, it's a cool card. Even after the nerf, I still think it's good. I've been playing so much Hearthstone. Oh my goodness. Just like, Hearthstone is really fun right now with the variety. I recognize that I think there are legitimate power level concerns in multiple formats. I think it's important to note that. But the variety is really great right now. I've been playing a lot of BGs. Got myself up to about 67. It's fine. Just enjoying playing it. Sometimes you hit 5 triples and you get first. Sometimes you hit a couple triples, you top 4. Sometimes you get 8th. It's, there's variance to it, but the prizes were really compelling enough to get me into it again. And now I wonder what it'll feel like without them. Will I still want to play as much as I do? Because it's still a lot of fun. I hope there's a little bit of change, but there's enough to do that I've been enjoying playing it. Played a bunch of duels this week. I got a 12 win with Demon Hunter before the nerf went through. I had a Demon Hunter deck built yesterday. I was like, all right, well, I got to do this before the nerf goes through. So I just played it, and I got an Emerald Goggles double time deck. It was filthy. It was filthy.
Wait, how can you get both of those together?
They're in different pools, I think.
I thought they were both the second pool.
Maybe I know I had Goggles. I thought I had double time. Maybe it was something else. I don't remember. Goggles was insane. Because I went from left to right and just played every card in my hand over and over again. I forget what stupid passive I had. Maybe
it was Ronin's?
No, it was the one where anytime you play a spell, you shoot a missile. That's it.
Oh, yeah, that
That
would
was
do
also
it.
very good.
Yep.
Yeah, that was strong. Yeah, it was gross. It was really, really good. So I played that, but I've just been playing a bunch of duels, and like, it's a fun game mode. I like it. It's cool. It's a great couch mode, and I've been playing a lot of standard. Like, there's just the past few days, so much interesting stuff has happened that I've wanted to try it all out. I'm enjoying it a lot. I do think that this is one of the most powerful standard formats we've ever seen. Like, it's up there. But we're going to talk about this a lot in Decksplanations. For the end of a 6-set meta, for standard to be this interesting is really unusual. So I don't think it'd be healthy if the game was always at this power level. But at the end of a standard year where we have likely less than 2 months left, it's still really interesting. And that's, I think, a newer thing. I don't remember that happening before, even with Galakrond's Awakening.
When I think we're at towards the end of a set. A Magic set came out today, I think today. And I have not opened Arena because there's just so much to do in Hearthstone. And usually that would be where all my time is going into, is like playing some drafts with the new Magic set. But there's with qualifiers and everything going on, and all the variety happening, still just trying to figure out what the optimal 3-deck lineup is for me.
Yeah. And not only does Arena have a new set, it has a new Android client. And Hearthstone, still great.
Oh, I have iOS devices, so
iOS is coming soon.
oh, well, that's exciting.
Yes. And there was a patch, so let's jump right into the news.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right, so we've had about a week with the new patch, and already we have a balance update. So as we were kind of alluded to in Life and Ladder, Hysteria got a bit of a change because definitely in Wild the combo was significantly more prevalent, and so they changed it. Used to be able to choose any minion to be able to attack random minions until it dies, and now you can only target enemy minions, which I think is a good change. Card is still very strong. I think the intent of the card originally was to mostly target opponents' minions, so this change makes a lot of sense, and makes it so that they don't have to change Tiller like they had to change Shutterwalk because animations were taking an eternity. So
Yeah.
The one thing that makes me sad about this was I liked being able to target Rustwicks to kill him off, because it can be challenging to make sure that your Envoy Rustwicks doesn't get polymorphed or devolved or stolen by a priest or soul mirrored or something. So using Hysteria to target it was a nice way to kill it off, and I'm sad that because of a thing in Wild that went away. I kind of hoped they might just change the text on Wretched Tiller to say that like it only does that effect the first attack or something. That I get why they didn't do that, because that's a weird change. I just figure it would like impact things the least. If I'm honest, Hysteria was also probably too strong, so it probably kind of hit two birds with one stone to make this change to it, because it eliminates the possibility of playing Apotheosis on a minion in Priest and casting Hysteria on that.
Especially with Wave of Apathy, if you go minion, Apo, Wave, Hysteria, like you Reno Jackson and killed their board and kept your stuff. It was really strong. I don't blame any Priest players who are upset by that. I do think Hysteria is still a really, really strong card. I had never seen it played on a player's own minion outside of Tiller, and I had seen it clear a whole lot of boards. It feels more like a 3-mana brawl, because the way to think about this card, people compare it to Bladestorm or Ramming Speed. It doesn't deal with clean boards, it deals with messy boards. And Brawl is a thing that deals with messy boards as well. This is just a 3-mana version of that instead. There have been so many times where it's hit my Questing Explorer, or it's hit a Libram of Hope token, or, I played against an Evolve Shaman once, and Hysteria was 3 mana, kill 6 minions twice that game. There's a lot going on there. Alex said...
You can still do that, though. You can still just Apotheosis your minion, and Wave of Apathy, and then Hysteria their minion. And
you can. It's not
very likely going to give you a bunch of life. It's not good. Maybe it doesn't Reno Jackson.
It doesn't
you,
kill as much stuff because it has 1 attack.
Yeah, exactly. So it's more fair.
It's worse, right? And so I don't know if that interaction needed to be worse. I know that interaction was very strong. It's a very specific point in the game. The card got worse. Alex's quote here is, "Believe it to be the best future-proof change. We're going to keep making on-attack triggers, and any plan where you can purposely skip your opponent's turn isn't something we want around. Hurts to lose some of the more interesting decisions, but felt it was right." I do think that there's some technical stuff here they probably couldn't fix in time. Remember that BlizzCon line is in less than a month, and this is probably the fastest they could get a patch out. Fixing the animation issues would be it's a much more involved thing. Animation issues have been a problem in Hearthstone for a long, long time, and they keep having to do spot fixes. But here, I think it's much more likely they open up design space by limiting the possibility of some goofy scenario like this. So I get the change. I don't blame any Priest players for being disappointed with it, but I think the card is still really, really strong in Priest and Warlock as a removal spell.
Of note, you can still OTK with it in Warlock and Wild, because you give them a Neverset Thrasher.
Correct. Yep.
With Fetchery.
Yep, and then you Death Speaker your own target dummy. Yep. Yeah, Thrasher, target dummy, Death Speaker it, and then hit their minion, and it attacks 30 times and they die. Assuming they have a clean board. But they have to have a clean board because you can't make their thing immune because you can't target opposing immune minions. Yeah.
Wait, you can't Neverset Thrasher immune your own Neverset Thrasher and then give it to them?
If an immune minion,
give it to them, but then you can't Hysteria it.
Yep.
Oh,
because immune also gives Shroud. It's
right.
The targeting for immune works the same as stealth. So it's if something is on the opposing side of the board, if it is stealth or immune, you can't touch it. It's basically the same thing. If it has immune, you can't target it at all. Because it'd be weird for an immune minion to be able to be like Shadow or Death or whatever.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Yep.
So we also got a couple other balance update. One for duels, or a couple for duels. The first one, I think, being, at least from my very limited duels knowledge, I would say probably one of the more needed nerfs, which is to the Demon Hunter hero power of Outlander, which whenever you played a card either whenever you outcast a card, even if the card didn't have outcast, whenever you outcast a card, you would gain 1 attack. Now it's going to cost you 1 mana every time you want to have that effect for the turn. This hero power was busted.
It was so insane, especially with Penflinger. So insane.
Yeah,
I only played 2
gross.
Demon Hunter runs in recent duels memory, and I got 12 wins with both of them just by taking this and going as low to the ground as possible. It's with Penflinger, you just your Twin Slice would do 8 damage or something. It's nuts.
Yeah, so much more reasonable now, and still probably without having a ton of experience, it almost still seems viable. It's just gonna be more difficult to do a bunch of damage, but you'll still do a bunch of damage. So just giving other decks more time to be able to keep up. But I could also see it completely killing the hero power too. I mean, adding a mana where there was no addition before is definitely a cost. So anytime you add a cost to something, I think it has the opportunity to kill it.
I don't think it should kill it. I think it just turns everything like a turn leader. I don't know, maybe that's enough to kill it, but it's not like you have to weave in 1 every time. It's just 1, and then it's effectively the same as the passive was.
And then we also have an update to the Death Rattle Hunter hero power. Now you can only target random. Oh, it triggers on a random friendly demon, or Death Rattle, random friendly Death Rattle minion, instead of being able to target a specific Death Rattle. So just makes random Death Rattles a little bit worse to have in your deck. Because obviously being targeted, but honestly doesn't feel like a hugely significant change to me. I don't know if either of you have a differing opinion, but it seems like if you have multiple death rattles on the board already, you're probably significantly winning, and it doesn't really matter which death rattle it hits. But I could see that being not true, I guess, in some circumstances. But
I mean, it's
seems like
worse,
if you have
right?
a death
Like
rattle,
it's
yeah.
the next treasure that came up, Bone Crusher, which is the bunny that Death Rattle summoned 2 other minions with Death Rattle that died this game. If you were able to consistently target that, then you're just farming Death Rattles out of there. And it used to cost 6. They nerfed it to 8 mana, and you could chain Death Rattles just over and over again. And now you're not going to do that.
How many? Are you telling me there's a lot of games where you just had a Bone Crusher on board for 2 turns? Is this what you're trying to? Are you trying to explain?
I
This to
didn't
me
play a lot
where
of Death
you're-
Rattle Hunter. They made Bone Crusher 2 mana more expensive, and they made that hero power random instead of targeted. Clearly, something was going on there. I don't know what it is, but you look at those 2 cards next to each other, you're getting a pretty clear picture.
Well, Bone Crusher definitely Bone Crusher definitely feels like a significant, like it needed a nerf, because I think we all looked at that card when it was announced as a signature treasure, and seemed like it was costed very, very efficiently and very very crazy. But yeah, I don't know. To me, the Bone Crusher nerf makes a lot more sense, just because I felt like that card was probably already very powerful, and the Death Games change, I don't know, it to me, just on a base level without a whole lot of knowledge about it, it seems like maybe this is just kind of how they intended it to work. Kind of like the Hysteria nerf is more like, this was the intent on how we wanted you to use this, and this is the intent on how to use this hero power. But I feel like there's not going to be a ton of board states where this actually significantly affects the hero power, but I could be wrong. Whereas the Bone Chewer nerf is just a huge, like, adding 2 mana cost to it just makes it significantly worse.
Most important thing about the Bone Crusher nerf, beyond they gave it the beast tag, is the developer comment in the patch notes. Did you see it? It says, "Turns out Bone Crusher is a silly rabbit." Very important. And yeah, it looks like they buffed a couple priest cards and a paladin card, some of the treasures here. And they moved cannibalism. You no longer will see cannibalism after 1 win. It's moved to the second pool, thank goodness. Cannibalism was nuts. Still is. Really, really strong. That's the passive where whenever a minion dies, all your other minions get +1 attack. You could get that after game 1, and I got that in a druid deck at one point, and like, oh boy. Those are some angry trees.
Yeah, you pretty much, if you just have to like clear their whole board, otherwise take a ton of damage. So makes a lot of sense. It was it's actually, I'm surprised that it was in Treasure Pool 1, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And then yeah, a couple miscellaneous updates and game improvements. Like the bug with the collection achievement progress could get out of sync with the current contents of your collection. The dev comment says you will never lose credit for an achievement once it's been completed, just so everybody's aware. And then there was a bug where arena could fail to load for new players. Duel's bug where animation for harvest time would play twice. There was a bug with Shadow Word Void would summon minions based on target minion's default health rather than its current health remaining, and a visual bug. So Were there any other specific cards you wanted to talk about with the duels update, or do we want to move on to the next topic?
Let's hit this next topic. Let's talk about this mystery bundle because it's truly a mystery. It just kind of and there's another topic I have to add to the show notes. This just kind of showed up, and it was the cause of a lot of discussion earlier this week.
Yeah, so just a little while ago, there was a Tavern special card pack bundles, which just kind of started to appear in the game shop. I don't think there was there was no announcements, no official announcements or anything stating that this was going to happen. And so this is kind of interesting. Players were reporting different options that were going to be offered to everybody. So, for instance, there was a $10 for a legendary and 10 Darkmoon Fair packs, or $20 for 2 legendaries and 20 Darkmoon Fair packs, $30 for 2 legendaries and 35 Darkmoon Fair packs, or $20 for 1 legendary and 25 packs, 5 packs Kobolds, Knights of the Frozen Throne, Journey to Un'Goro, Mean Streets, and Whispers of the Old Gods. I feel like that was an old bundle that we had before, right?
I thought so, but some people are getting the Wild bundle now. It's
weird.
Yeah, it's very clearly some kind of testing. If you go on the website and on the shop, you will only see the 20 for 20 bundle. And everyone has access to that. But the one you see in client could be 4 or potentially even 5. There are scattered reports of a 5 Tavern ticket bundle for arena and duels runs. I haven't personally interacted with anybody for that, but yeah, they're clearly testing to see what's going on. There have been rumors about this being correlated with your player profile and your purchase history, but also I have a friend over in THL who buys pre-orders on multiple accounts that got the $10 one, and not the $30 one. I got the $30 one. So I think if they're doing market testing, right, they want to have similarly situated players get different options. Because that if all 3 of us all buy the pre-orders, if one of us gets the 10 and buys it, one of us gets the 20, doesn't buy it, one of us gets the 30 and doesn't buy it, that tells you something. So, I don't know. It's weird. It just showed up randomly. People got different bundles. You don't have the option to choose which bundle you get. Everyone can get the $20 one. You can get whichever one is in the shop, and you can get both if you want. I was on the Angry Chicken on Wednesday, and Garrett had already bought the one in the client, and then I made him test it out and buy it on the website at the same time. And you can buy both.
That's interesting. Like, I wonder why they wouldn't just offer all of the bundles, right?
It's very strange.
Like, if you're going to have different bundles, it would make sense to me to offer all of them, and then you could just get to choose which one makes most sense for you where you're at.
Well, they want to test to see what your behavior is in terms of your player profile and which thing you buy versus you don't. You have to do A/B testing of if you take players in the same circumstance and give them different options, how do they react? So that way you know in the future, you guide purchase options that way. It's research. And it's the same timing they always do with catch-up bundles. Right after Darkmoon Fair came out, remember there was that Scholomance bundle? It was a catch-up bundle. This is Darkmoon Fair cards and legendaries right after Races comes out. When they release new cards, people come back to the game, so they need a catch-up bundle. It makes sense. But they're just trying to see different levels of engagement, I guess.
I feel like, as someone who gets, the larger bundle when a set comes out, and sometimes the other one as well, not usually, but every once in a while, like I already have all the cards. So this is hitting me and not useful. But I would imagine, because for a while I was missing a couple, and I did dust some goldens and things to make stuff. But I could see myself getting either the 10 packs 1 legendary or the 20 packs 2 legendaries, just to like complete the collection if I had bad luck or just needed to round everything out. But at this point in time, I don't think it would ever be worth it to me to get the 30 bundle. because I'd be so close to completing anyway that there wouldn't be a need. And of course, that was the one that I was offered.
Yeah. I was offered the 31-2. I didn't buy it, don't need it. But this is, I think, very much a catch-up bundle for people that have spent some time away from the game and just want to spend a little money to catch up. And, like, it's a good deal at any of the price points. It's better
totally.
than usually what we get.
I would say if you missed the pre-order for expansion, like this 2 legendaries and 35 is really solid. Like the guaranteed legendaries help so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of unannounced things that just kind of dropped into our client, did you all get these quests today?
It's weird. I haven't had the chance to log in today, but yeah, most people should be getting a kind of a New Year legendary quest line. So it's a bit before Lunar New Year, which usually I believe lines up with Chinese New Year, which is mid-February. But it's definitely too late for our New Year, which was almost a month ago. So, but hey, it's like free packs. So the first of the quest line is you just play one game of Battlegrounds, you get a pack. So it says each quest that is completed rewards you with 3 packs. So each quest that you complete, you'll get 2 Darkmoon Fair and 1 Scholomance pack, but no extra experience for it. And then after you play the game of Battlegrounds, you can play 5 games of Duels for another 3 packs. And then the last one is to play 5 games of Ranked Standard. Will also get you 3 packs. So 9 packs. 9 packs is pretty cool. It's weird though. We keep having all these like unannounced things, I guess. That's or like no lead time announcements, like kind of how they did the card reveals for the last set was just like all of a sudden, oh yeah, by the way, card every hour, bam 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 bam, and here's all the cards. And then it was like, oh yeah, by the way, we're putting all these bundles in the gift in the shop and you're gonna get a different one, and you're welcome to take the value if you need some packs. And now just like here's 9 packs, but weren't told that this was gonna happen. So
it's interesting that we have less official communication about things we can buy and way more communication from Iksar. I wonder if they're trying a different strategy after the November kerfluffle, because we've gotten a lot more info than in the past from Iksar, like who's making it very clear that he is like the figurehead on social media and every week is doing these AMAs. And then when it's something new actually for the client, even when they're just like literally giving us 9 packs, no announcement, it just shows up. And it's Happy New Year on January 29th. I don't know.
I'm now thinking of a meme with like Iksar playing as the team tank, just like soaking all the comments.
I mean, that's basically what's happening, right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I feel like Hat is kind of just driving this news section, because the next part we want to talk about is actually the Iksar AMA, which unfortunately I am a bit behind on. But we have some of the major topics here were Death Knight and Demon Hunter and new classes, some champion cards, development and philosophy, and achievements and other cards. So I'll probably going to throw this one over to Hat, since I know you have quite a large Twitter presence, and I'm sure we're able to participate in reading a lot of the questions. What do you think is one of the more interesting things to talk about here in the AMA? What was one of the topics that you found more interesting?
So I try and keep up with these on Wednesday nights. It's usually it's 7 to 8 Pacific, so usually 10 to 11 my time on Wednesdays. I try and keep up, but out of cards does a great recap every single week. Just gives you the bullet points of what you need to know, and then has the full text of the tweets inside. And there were a few things that were interesting. Livewire Lance almost was printed at 2 mana. 2 mana, 2/2.
That was the first round of lackey cards, right?
That was I think that was, maybe it was, yeah. Okay, yeah, I do think that
I
was.
hope
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because
I actually can see it because you figure you Corsair cash, you'd have to play it on 3 anyway. But then I think about, wait, that means
playing
you could
Corsair cash into 3/3 Livewire Lance?
Yeah.
well
Excuse me?
no, yeah,
Excuse me?
that's what I'm thinking about that. And I'm like, oh yeah, that doesn't quite work. Or even just now you get to not only swing with the weapon on 3, but also play the lackey.
I'm
But I could
glad
totally
they
see
nerfed
how
it.
you would have it at 2 for a while. Yeah.
They did. They knew it was good. They wanted Warrior to be good. It was. Iksar was grateful that it wasn't printed at 2. I don't know.
So they knew what lackeys were, but I want to clarify something, because if I remember correctly, back when lackeys were announced, we were not sure as to their power level. I believe it was very much still up in question before we actually got a chance to play with cards like Evil Miscreant.
Lance was
Did we?
Oldham,
Oh, Lance was
it looks
Saviors.
like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just wrong then. Yeah, that card should not have been 2 mana. Lackeys were really good. They just got better when you gave them Titanic Lackey. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they were already in the middle of developing Uldum when the other set got announced, and there probably wasn't a ton of changing to do. But maybe they knew lackeys were super broken, and I don't know. Yeah, 2 mana Lance would have been insane.
I'm glad they didn't print it too. As far as there are some things that we kind of know are coming. Tribal spells. Dean said when and not if. So get
I'm
ready
so
for
hyped.
that. Yep, that'll be cool. Interestingly enough, it's not confirmed. I'm going to read this directly. I'm going to read this exactly. The question is, the Shaman hero power is uniquely RNG based and rather unintuitive compared to other hero powers. Have you ever seriously discussed changing parts of it? The answer is, the fact that it's different because of those things isn't necessarily negative to us, but we have discussed changing aspects of it. When we looked at the classic set and ways to change it, we also looked at the base hero powers and what class we're supposed to be good at and weak at. We'll have some more details on that in a big future update, but nothing to divulge yet. Hearthstone 2.0 is coming. Like, he didn't say, no, we're not changing it. Didn't say, yes, we're changing it. Said we looked at it. When we looked at Classic and the way to change it, we looked at hero powers as well, and we will have more details.
I wonder if they hit Warlock and Shaman.
I have a lot of questions.
And Demon Hunter, I know they won't.
Of
I'm
all the
just saying
things
it
that I
'cause I want to
wouldn't,
say it.
of all the things I wouldn't expect them to change, it'd be the button. Yeah. So it's not a confirmation, but it's not a denial either. And when your answer is, we looked at it, we talked about it, we'll have more details soon. I don't know. I don't know. So yeah, definitely worth checking out the recap. There's some cool historical stuff there, and a little bit of info about what's coming, but not really.
Yeah, and this also is pretty interesting. I'm reading champion cards.
Yeah.
That seems like a pretty cool concept. It sounds a lot more like enchantments, like an enchantment to me,
That's
because
yeah.
it's a minion. It's a minion technically, but it has no health value, no attack. But the ability is kind of just a thing that happens. So it's almost like halfway between an enchantment and a planeswalker, I guess. But
Yeah, I would
it's
say
a
so.
cool concept. I'm sure
'Cause
we'll see it eventually when they flesh it out.
it's hard to make really interesting abilities on minions in Hearthstone because minion combat is so much of what's going on, so they're too fragile. So
Yeah.
this champion concept is kind of an
It sounds
interesting
almost
way
more
around
like
that.
a hero power, a second hero power they have to play. Like that's kind of what it is.
Sort of, yeah.
So there were some things they had to work on there. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many cool minion abilities that just never really get to shine because if it's good enough, you either kill it or it's too good and it, like you play the card and it does its thing and you win the game. So having those cooler minion abilities on something that can't necessarily die easily would be cooler because they could do more interesting things and not have it have to be broken in order to see play on the battlefield.
Yeah. So last couple interesting notes here. First, that we're at least 2 years away from getting a new class. They're going to do it every so often, but it's not the sort of thing you want to do all the time.
Mhm.
So it makes sense. And they've discussed, Death Knight Monk or creating something new for Hearthstone, which I think would be cool. But the most important thing here is that he does not like mac and cheese. He doesn't like
It's a
mac
shame.
and
I
cheese.
read that. That's an abomination. I can't I'm
Very
all
sad.
for people's opinions on food, but
That's a wrong
come
opinion.
on.
That's incorrect.
Mac and cheese.
Does not like mac and cheese. He does, and
Man.
he responded in a separate thread not related to the AMA that he does like black licorice. How do you like black licorice and not like mac and cheese? I assume his taste buds just need a recalibration.
Like, did he specify Kraft mac and cheese, like the stuff in the box? Because I like that stuff, but I understand if other people don't.
No, he said
But
mac and
does he
cheese is not good. That's what
just
he said. He said
in
mac and cheese
in
is not good.
general?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even like. I don't like it, but I understand that it's good. Like homemade, like when people home make mac and cheese, and it's like, the good mac and cheese that is actually created. Like, I understand that's good. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean. Oh man, that's weird.
Yeah.
It
It's
has
upsetting.
cheese in the name.
Botticus, I love your righteous indignation, and I'm right there with you. Yeah.
Anyway, that's a sad note to leave off the Iksar AMA. Probably the saddest note we've ever left an Iksar AMA with. So there was a secret regarding the Scholomance board that we won't spoil on the podcast, but if you want to know what it is and haven't been able to find it, we do have a link in the show notes that that tells you how to unlock the secret of the Scholomance board. So if you haven't seen it yet, make sure to check it out because it's pretty cool. But I always love when people finally figure out the cool little interactions like the shells and the Journey to Angora board. Pretty cool. Cool stuff. And then lastly, we have kind of a cool little note here. Writer of articles, famous writer of PC Gamer articles, Ridiculous Hat, got to write another article. Why don't you give us a little rundown of how this happened, Hat?
The managing director asked me to write it, and I said okay. Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. It's for some reason they like my writing over there, so asked me to put together kind of their state of Hearthstone, recap everything that happened in the year. Spoilers: a lot of things happened this year, a lot of things, and I don't know. Just really, really lucky to be able to kind of share this sort of thing with the gaming world at large. It's mostly a recap. So if you're looking for new information there, obviously I don't have any new information, but it was kind of nice to look back at everything that happened and get an idea as to the kind of year it's been. And I was able to talked to Tiago over at HS Replay and got some numbers for how gameplay was, like how player engagement. And basically, on most days, there's more BGs played than standard. So far this year, they're about neck and neck, about even. But if you look at this January versus last January, standard games are up. It doesn't look like BGs are taking away from constructed. It looks like it's just bringing in new people, and the game is just straight up growing. So it's kind of nice to see that it's not thinking of it as BG cannibalizing Standard. It's more that they made a second game that's as good as the first game and put them in the same game.
Although it does seem to have cannibalized streamers.
I mean, kind of, but so it's the same category because it's all Hearthstone. It's not that Hearthstone is losing popularity. It's that BGs are hugely popular, and it's in the same category. There are some streamers that have made the swap over, but like Asmodai, when he was playing Construction, was still getting 5 or 6K viewers, and now he's getting 5 or 6K viewers playing BGs. It's a different format, but the Hearthstone's still popular, and BGs is the most popular mode of Hearthstone right now, but Standard is still highly played. And at rotation time, when in April, there were so many games played and constructed. So many. The rise of Demon Hunter brought a ton of people back to the game to see what was going on. They stuck around for a little bit.
I think something also sort of interesting with streamers is it wasn't just BGs, but a bunch of top Hearthstone streamers kind of switched lanes in general. So yeah, Dog plays BGs, but he also sometimes plays TFT. There's the Hafu plays a bunch of Among Us. Slissa switched from Standard to BGs. So like it was a bunch of people switching to BGs, some people switching off of Hearthstone altogether, and it sort of makes you realize how many, I don't know, how concentrated the group of people with a ton of viewers was. So now if you're looking for Standard Hearthstone, I feel like Kibler is the highest view count for Standard. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think Kibler, probably. I don't know. I don't actually watch a lot of like big streamers. The really big ones, I'll watch YouTube. Tice. Tice is what they're saying in the chat. Yeah, Tice is easy number one.
Yeah,
and he gets like 15,000 viewers.
Yeah, I don't see. I don't know like what time
he's
he
daytime,
streams, but I could imagine that.
Yeah,
I guess it's like, in terms of like Americans, then it seems like.
I mean, No Hands is picking up a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, other Standard streamers are starting to pick up, and I think that's really awesome. But I think for a while there, we felt kind of homeless if you followed the main, like the bigger Hearthstone people, and then they switched over to BGs. Like, if you watch like Firebat or
Firebat kind of does everything. Like he's a variety Hearthstone streamer. It's BGs is just so spectator friendly, and Constructed kind of isn't in the same way. I don't know. It's hard to look at the entire phenomenon, but really, if I had to boil it down, is that the older game mode is less spectator popular, and the newer game mode is more popular. And that's a lot of it. I don't know. Both game modes, from the numbers that I saw that I got from HS Replay, both are still quite popular. And it's really, the way I want to look at it is more of a marvel that they invented a second format-defining game, like genre-defining game for a different genre, and put it in the same client as the other genre-defining game. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I don't know really much what else to add other than it's cool. I mean, however you enjoy playing Hearthstone, that's what we like. While we make an effort to make you or assist you in getting better at the game, we also, something I preach a lot is enjoying the game and figuring out what it is that you enjoy about the game. And if that's BG's, great. If it's duels, great. If it's arena, great. If it's standard, wild, whatever it is, have the most fun that you can playing Hearthstone. And if you like doing multiple formats, that's great too, because sometimes I like to play some standard, sometimes I like to play some BGs, and having both options is always a real benefit. So
yeah,
I'll be interested to see what the next game mode is, because we have another one of those coming out.
And what do you do if you like to play tournaments? Well, do we have some news for you?
It's the grand tournament!
Botticus, start your stopwatch. We're breaking the 5-minute mark today. Let's go. They did the esports
We'll see.
announcement. They did it. They did the thing. They made the esports announcement. So, it's an interesting scenario. This whole thing. So first of all, top 16 cuts for Masters Tours. Thank goodness. Top 16 is so much better than top 8. Also, if you're top 32 at a Masters Tour and you don't have an invite to the next one, you get an invite. That's pretty cool. Top 8s, you don't need 5, you need 4 to qualify. And finally, they are boosting the amount of qualifiers back up to 120. They are transitioning from a cash-based system to qualify for Grandmasters to a points-based system. So based on your finish, you get points, and it's not based on the amount of money that you earn. I don't know how this is better or worse. I'll ask Edelweiss after I'm done talking. She'll tell me. Also, they have 6 online events, no in-person events. They are all named after Warcraft locations, which I think is super cool. The first one is Masters Tour Ironforge. They have they're in different time zones, to be fair to people in the different regions. But there's Masters Tour Ironforge, Masters Tour Orgrimmar, Masters Tour Dalaran, Silver Moon, Stormwind, and Undercity. I think that's rad. I think that's pretty cool. And they have they took the map from, I think this is the map from Legion. Yeah, this is the map from Legion, because the Broken Isles are right. No, Zandalar is there, and Kaltira. So this is from BFA. Yeah, this is the BFA map. Oh, is that Maw in the middle from Shadowlands? Little swirly thing? Just swirly.
I don't know.
Okay.
I should know this, but I don't pay attention to lore.
Or is that the Maelstrom? I don't remember. Anyways, they have it overlaid.
I'm pretty sure that's always been there.
Yeah, I think that's the Maelstrom.
Not positive, but I'm pretty sure that's always been there.
So, anyways, they definitely played up the theming a bit, and it seems like a generally better system. We don't have a lot of information about prize pools. We do know as well, what I think is probably the most important part of the announcement, is that ESL is handling all of the operations and broadcast production for the next 2 years for all of Hearthstone Esports. So, Edelweiss, the thing that you said, they're doing the thing. They're doing the thing that you said. Yep. We don't know if this supersedes the YouTube deal or not. They did not comment on it. But we do know that a third-party company is dealing with the operations and production, not the decision-making, but in running the tournaments and running the broadcasts. Now, it does mean that there were some layoffs. Some of the people landed at ESL. Others did not. A-Bar in particular, a wonderful guy who was been the video stream producer for a long time on the Hearthstone streams, wrote a twit longer. He's out, right? So he's still working at Blizzard in the short term on projects, random projects. But in the long term, he doesn't know what he's going to do. And he's not pointing fingers or anything like that, but this is a person that every single one of the casters and players spoke highly of after the fact, and this might be a positive change, but it definitely has some compromises and consequences in the near term. So, Edelweiss, I'm throwing this to you. Analyze. Tell us what you think.
All right. So I do think it's good having a third-party organization to run things, especially if it does get around the YouTube rule, because that would be just really great for HS Esports viewership to have it on Twitch again. Again, we don't know the details on that, but I am happy about some of the changes, a little concerned about others. I was glad that they went from earnings to a point system, but we were disappointed with where the points cut off. Because as the system stands, you get rewarded for a certain amount of consistency, but it kind of ignores a lot of players that still had very positive records. For example, my teammate Glee was 6th in standings by earnings for Americas. Now, Americas was lower than everyone in terms of amounts, but with this system, he just has 0 points. Because even though he had positive records at all of the Masters Tours, you have to hit the 7 wins mark to get any points. So someone also like Dead Draw, who has really strong overall win percentage, he has 7 points because he made it to 7 win mark like one time. It's like almost there, and then they didn't stick the landing, is what it feels like. So I think for players on my team that were very consistent all of last year and now going into this year, they're realizing that they have to not only qualify, which can be a challenge in and of itself, but they have to hit 7 wins for it to matter at all towards Grandmasters. It's really hard to keep the dream of like that path to pro alive. I from my point of view, where I hadn't had the time to qualify for things, I just enjoy playing competitively, and it will feel great to get to the Masters Tour. So more qualifiers, and in particular, it seems like more qualifiers per region helps me out a bunch, as well as extending to top 32 instead of top 16. Probably won't go for ladder, but it's at least a little bit more of an option. Those are all really great changes in terms of getting to Masters Tour. There's a sticky situation in terms of last year gave people this skewed perspective of like a nice world where they get to play remotely, not have to spend money on travel, but also get $850 just for qualifying to a Masters Tour. And I totally understand that was not going to last.
So have they confirmed that's going away?
Oh yeah, only the top 200 get paid for the Masters Tour.
Where did we find that out? It wasn't in this article.
I'm pretty sure that it was.
I looked like 4 times. Oh yeah. Each Masters Tour will feature among top 200.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
How about that? Yeah, so that's really different.
So it means that it's no longer enough to qualify if you're trying to get in the money, but you actually have to be better than the other half of people. So they're letting more people qualify, which gives you more experience, exposure, etc., and that's great and nice. But since so many more people can attend, it being full remote, they're only paying out to the top 200, because the whole reason that they gave 850 instead of, it was initially 500, was to cover the cost of people's travel to live events. Obviously, if you're not doing live events, they don't want to be paying $850 to everyone who qualifies just for them to play remotely.
You know what this means? We're not going to see any more 0-1 Dropos Kaka deck lists with Chillwind
That
Yeti.
is also another really big incentive, right? No more, oh, I'm tired, so I'll play the first round and quit. It's either you decide not to do it or you stick it out. And that's really nice. I recall Brian Kibler's sentiment when that was happening, where he was kind of saying to these well-known players like, hey, some of these people, this is like the only time they'll ever qualify to this thing, and they just want to play against you, right? They want to be able to tell their friends, I played against a grandmaster, or I played against, so-and-so famous player. So, as a courtesy to those people, you should play it out so that they get the chance to play you.
Yeah. I'm just glad to hear that they're intending for Hearthstone Esports to stick around for at least another 2 years, right? Like I think there was a lot of concern about getting hotsed, getting Heroes of the Stormed, of just like silence and then nothing.
Scary.
So hearing that for the next couple of years, they're committed to it, and that they're going to bring in a known entity to run the tournaments, there's some kind of sense of stability there. It's still obviously a work in progress, but they have hired a bunch of new people as well for Hearthstone Esports, and it doesn't seem like they're giving up on it. It seems like a continued evolution, so I'm glad to see that. And most importantly, this section has purpose because there are qualifiers, And I have sweet, sweet stats. Oh, thank goodness I have stats again.
I have a couple other points.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Go.
There's an asterisk on this, but it says 24 invites from third-party events.
Okay.
So there might be something. No, it
Well-
says numbers may fluctuate. See the official rules for details.
And you know who ESL owns, right?
DreamHack, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I am hopeful that we'll have that again. Although it seems we would have to have some kind of remote DreamHack for that.
Yeah. They have unfortunately not contracted a third party to cure the pandemic, so.
I mean, theoretically, in the future, live events happen again, which something like a dream hack could happen.
And they could be online, offline
Theoretically,
as well.
that is a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would hope to see the points eventually get distributed, just sort of, a point per win at Masters Tour. Because right now it feels like the only reason that they aren't doing something like that is because they don't want to keep track of the data. Because another part of the announcement was that they will have a website that lists all the current standings per region for all the players. So if you only give points to people who have a record of 7x, 7 wins and higher, it's a lot fewer people to keep track of on that website. But we know that from when we were doing HCT stuff that they were able to keep track of points for all the players that participated in the system. And also we know that it can be done because the Donkey website does it.
Yes. They could just hire Donkey.
That was my response, is like, well, they could just hire Donkey if it's a problem to keep track of that much information. And it would help so many people to be able to get points at the very least for 6 wins and 5 wins where you've got a positive record. But honestly, I feel like you could do 1 point per win at these. It wouldn't really shift things around too much, but it would be more rewarding to people who get consistent positive win rates at Masters tours over multiple tours.
Yes. Dead draw for GM.
Yep.
Can I talk about stats now?
Yes.
Okay, stats. Stats. Big shout outs to Steve Lubitz, Wicked Good. Big shout outs to Wicked Good for offcurve.com, my favorite website when qualifiers are running. There are stats and graphs and pictures and deck lists. All of my favorite things. So, the most popular lineup: Token Druid, Stealth Rogue, Enrage Warrior, with Zoo over the Enrage is the second most popular. The most winning classes are Demon Hunter and Warrior. Both are kind of all over the place. Demon Hunter, you can play whatever you want and probably win with it. Aggro DH is good. Fell DH is good, which is the weird, it's Soul Demon Hunter except doesn't play any of the Soul cards. Botticus, it's going to be okay, buddy. It's going to be okay. You can't see him. Chat.
Not again.
Yeah.
No.
Fell DH, you play the 2-mana 2/3 where you can hero power for free, and you play Fell Saber, which is the 4-mana 5/6 that can only attack if you attack, and you play Fell Steel Executioner, which it's the 3-mana 4/3 that if you corrupt turn into a weapon, you just hit him in the face a bunch. It's Soul DH without the Soul cards. You can also just play Soul DH. You can also play OTK DH, which is something about OTK DH. It is a really stomach-turning combo deck. Something about it just feels so filthy to play with or against. But they're all good. They've all won qualifiers. For Warrior, you can play Enrage, you can play Silas, you can play Bomb War, you can play... ETC is actually the one that we're seeing the least. And there's another Warrior variant that we'll talk about in Decksplanations that's also good and unexpected. Token Druid is in 3 winning lineups. Stealth Rogue is in 2. The best win rate so far is Silas Warrior. Silas OTK Warrior with Whirl Kick, Rogue, and Ramp Paladin not far behind. Soul DH is also above 54%. The worst deck performance in the format. Any guesses?
Mozaki Mage.
It's terrible. Don't play Mozaki Mage. Don't do it. 41% win rate. Don't do it. I know you saw Dead Draw
Murdered by
playing it.
Cutthroat.
I know you saw Dead Draw playing Mozaki Mage. I know you said that looks fun and Dead Draw's winning with it. Surely I can win with it too. No! Put it away. Play a real deck. It's not good. Galakron Warlock also don't play it. Miracle Priest probably don't play it. Yeah. Just probably don't do it. Let's see. I'm going to refresh this graph. Yeah. Oh, and I mean, there are a bunch of new decks that we'll talk about in a second.
I didn't realize we were calling it Fell Demon Hunter. I was just calling it Mid-Range Demon Hunter.
It's kind of mid-range, but like it plays 6 cards that start with the word fell. And I don't know. It doesn't really feel like mid-range. You play a 2-mana 2/3 and you hit him in the face. Like
You play a 4-mana 5/6.
I mean, that's not mid-range. That's just big aggro.
Well, yeah, I mean, but also I always call her Queen of Blades, but Bladed Lady.
So 1 mana 6/6.
You're playing big minions in an aggressive deck. I call it mid-range.
It's kind of mid-range, but you don't pay more than 4 for any card in your deck except Skull of Gul'dan, which really costs -3. I don't know. I've been calling it Fell because it has a bunch of cards that start with the word Fell, and that way people know what you're talking about, which is the whole purpose of using deck names. Don't get me started, internet. Don't get me started on semantics. Anyways, speaking of deck lists, if we're going to talk about deck lists, we should deck-splain what we're talking about.
So I was feeling so prepared at the end of last week for these qualifiers. I was like, all right, this is great. We play Cyclone Mage. I'll still play like a Rage Warrior, maybe some kind of rogue. And then everything exploded. We got people started investigating Druid after Fino posted his Arbor Up Druid. And then you've got 3 different levels of Druid using Arbor Up, low to the ground with Gibberlings, somewhere in the middle with just spells and Fungal Fortunes, occasionally running Goru the Might Tree, and then the taller ones that use dragons for Breath of Dreams and still Overgrowth, may or may not be running Overflow. Those have Ysera in them still. All of it comes down to Solar Flare, Solar Eclipse plus Arbor Up is completely insane. And it's a power play no matter what kind of Druid you're running.
Well, I mean, it's just the start. I wanted to talk about this kind of in general. What happened to Standard? What happened? Because, like, the end of last week...
Pandora's box opened.
The end of last week, I was like, all right, things are kind of interesting. Nitro Boost Poison is obviously pretty great. I guess we put Libram of Judgment in Pure Paladin, which feels like 1,000 years ago.
Yep.
What happened? Because we have, in terms of newish decks, or at least new variants, we've got 10 decks in the show notes, 11 if you count Prime Warlock, and then 2 dramatically improved lists. Why did this happen, and how did this happen?
So my closest explanation is that this is the most cards we've ever had in a standard format before, apart from maybe before standard existed. So you've got your regular 6-set meta plus our first ever mini expansion, and Classic Basic has not yet gone away. We hit the breaking point on a bunch of things that were almost there. I had been messing with a Ramp Paladin previously. Turns out Crab Rider was the thing that put it over the edge. Who would have guessed?
But, like, okay, so...
Would you say Crab Rider tipped the scales?
It did. It totally did.
Botticus made a pun. That's the title of the episode. Botticus made a pun. But even beyond standard power level, get to in a second. Why did we not find these decks right away? Like, what about these 35 new cards took this long to develop? If you look at the Dark Moon Fair decks, the first week felt pretty boring. There were some revisions, there were some adjustments. Aggro DH kind of, picked up a little bit. And Prize Plunderer made us eventually discover World Kick Rogue. But this set, it felt boring until it didn't. Is it the lack of theory crafting streams? Was it the abbreviated release time?
It is 1000% the lack of theory crafting streams. Because we didn't have this isolated thing of a bunch of, high-level players getting to experiment and try out a bunch of stuff. And then when the set comes out, we've already got a baseline of things. Now, this happened a bit at the beginning of Scholomance meta, even with theory crafting streams. There was there was some stuff, and then there was a crazy amount of other things. The meta was changing every week, even after the set came out. I think that was just on more of a delay this time around, because we did our own theory craft stream period, right? We had sort of the mini expansion just came out meta of people trying some more obvious things. And then there was a bit of a lull, and then people tried slightly less obvious things. And we got a whole bunch of decks from there. I mean, if I just read down this list, we've got Ramp Paladin, Gibberling Druid, Spell Druid, Fell Demon Hunter, Aggro Demon Hunter, Resurrect Priest, Lucy Priest, they're calling? Oh, right, Elucia Priest, Monsanto's list. Ike made a Pirate Warrior. There's the aggressive Crab Rogues, because Wind Fury is really good when you can Cold Blood it and Nitro Boost poison it.
Nitro Crab!
Mozaki Mage, we discussed, is not something you want to bring to competition, but if you're really, really good at the deck, you might be able to play it on ladder.
Yes.
In Rage
Dead Draw,
Warrior,
if you're listening to our podcast, thank you for listening. Other people, if you're listening to our podcast, you're not Dead Draw.
In Rage Warrior, I've been enjoying quite a bit. Nitro Boost Poison on Warmaul Challenger is quite strong there.
And Reaper Scythe.
Oh my goodness, yeah, Reaper Scythe with Nitro Boost is spectacular. OTK Demon Hunter got Illidari Studies, and turns out when you only have 12 Outcast cards to choose from, you're hitting Skull like a quarter of the time, and you can get an extra I-Beam, you can get a Consume Magic that isn't in your deck. It's very, very powerful.
Or Spectral Sight, or you actually want to play Philosophy in that deck, like on purpose, so it's really, really good.
And then Warlock is the fun class.
Yeah.
Because primes.
I definitely agree with you that it's got to be the different way that the community gets to engage with the set. We saw everything 2 days before we got to play with them. Nobody else got to play with them early. It's been really fascinating to watch, and kind of feels like there's just this information cascade that's taking a while. It does remind me a bit of Scholomance, but it's not what I expected from just 35 new cards. And Ramp Paladin was 28 cards of 30. I understand Crab Rider's really good. We probably could have been playing this before. We probably could have been. But like, if you just put in Bluegill instead, it's worse.
Edelweiss was playing this.
Yeah.
Just without tip
Not
skills.
quite there. Well,
Yeah.
actually, you know what it was? We were almost there, right? Like, it was Conway made the move to put in Tip the Scales, and I was like, okay, I'll try that. And it was very good, but we were still running first day of school as an activator for the Allura. We just didn't do the wand maker thing. And, that helps in the early game sometimes, but it meant that you would miss more often. And turns out once you can make it almost guaranteed, that Allura is quite game winning.
And you said Res Priest is new, but I played a few games with essentially this Res Priest before the new set came out. It was if I remember looking on HS Replay, it was the highest win rate Priest deck for the majority of the time. It's just most people don't like this archetype, so they don't play it very much. So it has a very low sample size, but
yeah.
Hysteria.
Hysteria is a big deal.
Yeah, Hysteria is a big deal, but like this Insight was huge for this deck. The card Insight was very big for Res Priest, so
yeah.
So
the list I was playing didn't actually play Elucia, but I could see why you would play it now because of combo DH for sure.
So
I meant Insight was strong for the Elucia deck.
Oh yeah, which is a completely separate situation. So, Botticus, you dip back into Standard a little bit. Do you think this format is too powerful?
It's hard to tell for me because I can't stress enough how much dipped I would say. Like my toe has been very, very lightly dipped, and it was right when the burst of decks started coming out. So really, all I have experience with is this tip the scales paladin deck, and it feels very much like a tip the scales paladin deck has felt in the past, mainly referring to the wild version, where if you don't draw your combo piece, you struggle really, really badly. And so it definitely, I don't know if this is the type of deck you always want to be good, but if it's good for these 2 months and then it's not good again, I think it's probably fine. It really depends because I'm in a position right now where I'm less invested in standard, more invested in BGs. So it's hard for me to suggest that, hey, yeah, it's definitely too powerful right now when my opinion, it's not that my opinion doesn't matter, it's just that my opinion should matter less because it's like I don't play the format enough to be able to give a good opinion on it. So I would say, I'm fine with a very high power level of cards for a couple months,
But that's
but
important
I
because
also understand
think about when the
if other
format was
people.
too good. Like when the format was too strong and you didn't have BGs and you didn't have duels, it was a lot harder to swallow, right? So it's totally
Right.
okay for that to be a part of your decision making because you have other things to do. As opposed to when Wall Priest comes out and you're like, I guess I'll play WoW. Like you had to leave the
Yeah.
clan.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, I mean, so like I'm fine with it, but I also understand if this isn't your style of Hearthstone that you enjoy playing. Hopefully you're okay for 2 months, and maybe you find something else to do, like play some BGs. Maybe you find something to do outside of client. But hopefully the people that enjoy these very high powered formats get a chance to like the good thing is there's a huge list of very powerful decks, so it's not one of those things where there's this giant power outlier that if you don't enjoy that deck archetype, kind of like when Demon Hunter was really good, when it was like the only thing that you should be playing, you're not forced into playing that. You can play this tip the scales paladin, you can play your res priest, you can play gibberling druid. Like all these are very, very powerful archetypes, and maybe for the period of time they're too powerful, but people can have that enjoyment out of almost kind of playing wild in standard in a sense, because a lot of these decks are essentially just somewhat watered down wild decks, right? Like Tip the Scales Paladin for a while was just a very powerful wild OTK deck that people would play, and Gibberling Druid is a is a popular wild deck. You just don't have the pirate package, which increases the power level a bit, and the 1 mana AoE buff. But all these are also wild decks, and you kind of get a chance to play them in standard, which is kind of cool for a bit, but definitely not something I would want all the time.
Yeah.
So I was playing an old friend, Sidonia, on the
Ooh.
ladder, and he was on the Ramp Paladin, and I was on Gibberling Druid. And I think he had the hand to go off, but we go off a little bit sooner. I had a crazy Gibberling turn and snowballed to lethal, and it was on stream. I apologized to him afterward, and he said, "Yeah, no worries. It's a high roll meta," and that is kind of my concern right now. Is it's not just that things are really high powered, but a lot of them have these hands where it feels like you can't lose. Even Zoo is sort of a high roll deck in terms of, do you have your ability to discard Hand of Gul'dan?
Or turn one
And
Conrathad Prime. Turn one
or turn one.
Conrathad is like if you can just dump your hand and then turn to just like Dark Glare Tour Guide or whatever, it's pretty filthy.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's fun to do powerful things, but it does feel, as Wicked Good is saying in the chat, kind of like Keliseth days. It's sort of did you draw your crazy Hyrule stuff? Did you go Breath of Dreams into Overgrowth? Did you have Feral Gibberer with Bloom and stuff? Did you have, very early Skull into the right things for OTK Demon Hunter? By the way, Illidari Studies.
That's a card.
That is a card. That's even an odd paladin, or sorry, not odd paladin, odd demon hunter in Wild. Lets you get Skull some of the time. It's so insane.
Yeah, that's strong. Yeah, I mean, yesterday, in Standard, I killed someone on turn 3. An Enrage Warrior. Turn 1, Gibberling, Coin Bloom, Dorable Infestation, 1/1, something. I forget exactly. I killed him on turn 3.
You roared on 3. And
I
then just
roar.
died.
I kept Roar in the opener. I kept it because my opener was Gibberling, Adorable Infestation, Lightning Bloom, Roar, and I'm like, I'm keeping this whole thing. And I killed him on turn 3. And I'm actually just looking at the screenshot. The guy I killed on turn 3 just won a qualifier with that Enrage Warrior and that Token Druid. So I guess I helped him decide the deck. Athanas, you're welcome. But yeah, killed someone on turn 3. Also, it's worth noting, Alora's win rate in Ramp Paladin, Mulligan win rate is 85%. On the coin, no, 85% period.
What?
On the coin, it's 95%. 95. If you have Alora in your
so
hand,
you draw both tip the scales 5% of the time.
I
That's how
think
that
actually
works?
yes, or they have Bear of Broom. Like,
Yeah.
19 out of 20 games where you have Allura and Coin, you will win the game. That's too good. On the Angry Chicken this week, I called her Barnes in a Wig. I think that's about right. That number is too good.
Barnes didn't even have that high of a win
I have
rate
never seen a win rate that
right?
high ever. I have never seen a card that's that high.
Keliseth didn't even come remotely
I
close
don't
to that
think
high
that
of a win rate.
I don't think
Even
Ankar had that
Kelis-
high in Pirate Warrior. I don't think that Necrim
even
Apothecary had that
Keliseth-
high in Scam Rogue.
Did
Keliseth Double Shadow Step didn't have that high of a win rate.
I don't think so.
I guess Prismatic Lens wouldn't have had that high because sometimes you draw the other lens.
Yeah.
It's too slow.
And it's not a 3/6, and you didn't get Crab Riders. Like, this format just isn't set up to deal with that kind of board, and Crab Rider is, like, really, really big. Like, it's got 4 health, so you can still, like, trade with both of them twice and have it live. And then, when you start your turn, if one Crab Rider and one Warlord are still in play, you just dome your opponent for so much damage. You get to hit them really, really hard. So, I'm going to just verify that stat right now, because I want to. The most popular list in Legend. Okay, Allura's down to a 77% win rate.
That seems reasonable.
On the coin, it's down to an 87%.
I think because people have adapted and started playing, either more aggro mostly more aggro things. Yeah.
But on
Also,
the coin,
when I say more
87%.
reasonable,
Yeah.
I just mean in terms of theoretical percentages of win rate, that is not a reasonable win rate. I don't want to. I just want to clarify. I do not think that an 87% win rate on the coin with Allura is acceptable. I don't want to. That's not what I'm trying to say here. I'm just trying to say that when you think about statistics,
it's better than 95%.
95% is that's yeah.
Yes. But yes, I think it's fair to say that number shouldn't be that high. Now, is the deck counterable? Yes. Is it the best deck in Standard? Maybe. It's up there. Is the format kind of high rolly? Absolutely. When it's not high rolly, is it skill testing? Yes. Like, there's a lot going on here, but this is probably one of the most powerful standard formats we've ever seen in aggregate. Day 1 Demon Hunter was more powerful than anything that's going on here. And there have been better decks, but not formats where the average power level is this high. At the same time, it feels fresh and it feels interesting. In terms of the end of a standard year, of the second half of a 6-set meta, easily the best they've ever done. Because usually, at this point in the year, it's either super duper busted in an unbalanced way or Rastakhan Trumbull. And DoD and Galakron's Awakening were kind of like more balanced and more interesting than this, and I think this is actually better. But I'm glad the format is only going to be like this for a couple months, and 100% they're going to nerf it before rotation. Because they've, last calendar year, in 2020, they made 13 nerfs. 13, more than one a month. We're not going to be stuck with this meta for 2 straight months. There's no way. They nerf things more frequently than that just for the sake of making changes. So I imagine there will be some kind of nudge here or there, Allura, and then other stuff. Maybe they will hit a card in Token Druid. Maybe they will hit some other card. I don't know exactly. But I don't think that we'll be stuck with this format forever. For now, I think it's enjoyable. But also, anyone that's burnt out, anyone that feels like it's way too strong, this is how I felt in Kobolds. It felt too strong because my relationship with the game was damaged, and also because it was really, really strong. That's the case right now. If you were not feeling it, take a break. There is no shame in it. It's really important to recognize if you're not having fun or if the way the game is going right now is not for you, and that's okay. And there are definitely some things right now that are on the stronger side in multiple decks and really swingy and really powerful. So, we should give you a rundown of the decks that are going on right now, just so you know what you're playing with or against.
So, which of these have you played, Hat?
Yes.
All of them?
I don't think I've played the Priests, and I haven't played Mozaki Mage. I have played every other deck.
Yeah, I haven't played Mozaki Mage. I haven't played Res Priest or the Demon Hunters. I guess I've played OTK Demon Hunter. But yeah, I've tried most of these. I handed you the Nitro Crab Rogue.
Nitro Crab. I won today
Botticus,
by
if
prepping
you
a
enjoy
cutting
that one, if
class.
you haven't tried it yet.
I won today by prepping a cutting class into double cold blood and going cold blood, kill you. Oh, you can go home again. You can do it. So nice.
Running out Crab against Druid on 2 is just one of the greatest plays because it's so terrifying for them.
What do they do?
Sometimes you prep Cold Blood, Nitro Boost Poison. It doesn't even matter that you don't have a weapon equipped yet.
It's just a 2-mana neutral Speaker Ghidra. That's all it is.
Yep. Yeah. Hitting people for like 14 with that card is amazing. I expect Crab Rider, honestly, will just be powerful in anything aggressive that uses buffs. So, some kind of aggro paladin down the line once there's other things to do in paladin.
It's just the new Scale Rider, right?
Kind of.
So,
Or like
it serves a
no,
it
or
serves a
Vicious
different
Scale Hide.
function.
You mean Scale Hide?
Yeah, what the 1/3 with life
Yeah.
steal.
Yes, it is the new Vicious Scale Hide.
Yes, but instead of the upside being sustained, the upside is they die faster.
But it also kind of like Scale Hide did have a bit of the life steal, but it was mostly for the stabilization. Whereas Crab Rider also still is a lot of stabilization, but higher upside in the, you can kill your opponent. Whereas Scale Hide has the upside of gaining a lot more life. So
Yeah.
they serve similar functions for different purposes, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
let's give a rundown of these decks here. We've got so many decks in the show notes here. 13 decks. Let's give a brief rundown, starting from the top, as to what each of these decks do when they're defining cards. We're not going to be able to talk about mulligan strategies or matchups with this many decks. We want you to be aware of all the new stuff that's come up in the past week.
So we talked about Ramp Paladin, defining cards, Allura plus coin or Wand Maker. Pretty
Nosdormu,
absurd.
the Timeless.
I keep Tip the
Also
Scales.
very good.
No
Yes.
matter what, honestly. Like, unless I have Allura, I keep Tip the Scales. Because it's pretty consistent that you will get Nosdormu. You have 2 copies of Red Scale and Nosdormu. I suppose maybe don't do this if you're running a version with amalgams. But if you're not running amalgams, then your Red Scales are going to find you Nosdormu or you'll just draw Nozdormu. So 3 out of 30 cards is pretty good odds that by turn 4 you're jumping up to 10 mana, and then Tip the Scales is the most powerful thing you can do once you hit 10 mana. It thins out your deck, which is important because you only draw 1 card a turn.
I think it's also matchup dependent. Like, I wouldn't do that against Priest or something that's not going to have a minion that's just not going to kill your
Red Scales.
Dragon Tamer.
I could see
I had a few situations like that come up where I just was playing against a class that just didn't kill my Dragon Tamer, and you don't get off your Nozdormu on time, so it can be just have an idea. Like against Zoo, it would be great because while Zoo can do some stuff with the thing is like Tip the Scales in that deck does so much for catching you up that, I mean, it needs to because you give your opponent 10 mana, but it catches you up at such a low investment cost that it makes sense. So
Yeah. And there are certain decks where giving your opponent 10 mana is going to be a bad time, such as OTK Demon Hunter, Freeze Mage, things that just burn you out. Those can be rough, but unless you have Allura, you kind of can't do much without hitting 10 mana anyway, so that's just sort of how that's the trade-off the deck makes. So next is
also,
Gibberling.
this deck doesn't draw cards, so
Yep.
Yeah, you are drawing 1 card a turn. I might make some changes to figure out if there's a way around that, but
You could do
yeah,
like
it's
you might
pretty
be able to
challenging.
do Salad's Pride and Novice Engineers and Loot Hoarders or something like that, but then you're playing all of these super tempo negative cards in a deck that's already like super tempo negative. So I
Right.
don't really know if there's a clean way to do it, but there's some way to do it. I don't know. And this deck, like as a Nas deck, I'm gonna say it feels goofy and like a Tavern Brawl, but it doesn't feel unbalanced. Allura feels unbalanced. Nas feels
Right.
good, but yeah, it's not really the same thing.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
if,
which makes
yeah,
sense. The Storm is symmetrical. Allura is not. So
yeah, yep.
Gibberling Druid is basically a low to the ground spell druid. Your only minions are the Gibberlings. Whenever you cast a spell, make a copy from Spellburst. So you keep Gibberling every time. I believe when Kresh and I were doing a coaching, the stats actually say you shouldn't be keeping Fungal Fortunes, because Fungal Fortunes is like a nice top deck for refill if you need the hand refill, but you want to be going for those early board plays more than anything else. So while it can be nice to have Fungal Fortunes, people keep Fungal Fortunes a lot, and you should just be looking for early plays up to the board.
Turn 1 tree enforcements, very common. And don't like over focus on Gibberling. This is mostly what I've been playing. And you just like curve out with tree enforcements and Dreamway Guardians an awful lot. Sometimes I will solar eclipse my Fungal Fortunes if I need refill, but a lot of the times on turn 5 you go Bloom, Solar Eclipse, Arbor up, and then you win the game. It's the deck is just in a format where people are going for rampy things in the mid game and they give you a few turns. It's very strong. You get under almost anybody, and your opponents will be afraid of your minions because Savage Roar will just kill them, and if that doesn't, then Solar Eclipse Savage Roar will. I will say that in where I've been, which is around top 250 to 300 Legend, I saw so much in Rage Warrior over the past 2 days, which I think is largely because of the dramatic increase of this deck. And that's not a fun matchup.
Yeah, unless you kill them on turn 3.
That was a good game. I've been trying to do that more.
So the slightly up mana version of this deck is Spell Druid. Oh wait. Oh no, you're using Jombray's list.
I am.
I guess that's kind of all the way up.
Yes.
Wait, does he have multiple lists? Am I looking at this wrong? He posted. Okay, I don't know why you're calling this Spell Druid.
This is more. What is this? Tree Druid?
I also
This is
question that it's
like-
Dragon Druid.
This is
Dragon
Cicero.
Ramp. Ysera
It's
Druid.
Ramp Druid. This is Ramp Druid.
Okay.
Dragon Ramp spell Ysera Druid.
I mean, I mostly say it's not spell because it doesn't run Fungal Fortunes. But so John Bray's list that we have here takes advantage of the new dragon, Dreaming Drake, that has Corrupt, goes from 3 mana 3/4 taunt to 3 mana 5/6 taunt. So using those, 1 copy of Emerald Explorer, and then Ysera Unleashed lets you consistently play Breath of Dreams and Overgrowth. Your plan with this is what we're used to with Druid. You're ramping really, really hard, and then going into your power plays like Solar Eclipse Arbor Up, Cenarian Ward, Solar Eclipse Cenarian Ward, or just drop Ysera and then draw things.
What this deck does a little differently is that it includes a bunch of Treant cards, and a play that I've made a couple times on 4 mana is Bloom, Runic Carvings, Aeroponics, Anubisat Defender. And you just get a lot of stats on board and draw a lot of cards very quickly. The going for the Treant stuff has been surprisingly effective, and Runic Carvings is a solid card, especially when it works with Anubisat, and man, Arbor Up is so good. Arbor Up is so good. Like, even on an empty board, it's just 2 4/3s, but getting like a mini Bloodlust with more board presence behind is really strong.
Having 2 powerful Treant cards in Arbor Up and Runic Carvings, letting you go Aeroponics instead of Overflow, just means you're faster. You've got a lot less tempo negative stuff. Overflow was like good for refill and the heal, but usually it was a turn where you weren't doing that much. So this list doesn't run Overflow and instead has actually a way of taking back the board with Runic Carvings and Umbral Owl.
Yeah. And then we get into the Demon Hunters. There's a lot of stuff going on.
I haven't played too much of this Fel Demon Hunter hat. The main note I have of it is it curves very well in that your 4-drop corrupts the 4/3 weapon, and that is really nice to be able to do on curve.
Yeah, this deck is weird. It's a strange deck. It feels like it has too many weapon charges. It feels like it should be playing Marrow Slicer, but it can't. But you can just hit your opponent really, really hard. And it's basically Soul Demon Hunter without the soul cards. That's the way that you should think of it. And instead of Soul Shard Lapidary, you just play a 4 mana 5/6 because you're attacking all the time anyway. It is a blunt instrument. You hit your opponent with weapons until they die. That is what goes on here. You don't shuffle any soul fragments in. You don't have to worry about your skull hitting the right thing to the wrong things. It plays Ulcerus. It plays Il'gynoth. Plays Bladed Lady, but you don't Lorekeeper Polkelt and set this up. You draw these cards and you play a bunch of damage and you hit them. Illidari Study is really good in this deck because you're likely to hit something that you want. And really, the pool is so small, you're pretty likely to hit either a good kind of card draw or removal or both or a Skull. And the only outcast card in the deck is Skull. So if you Illidari Studies...
play Unnerved Skull.
Yep. I don't think it actually comes up all that much, but it's really like this is 6-set Demon Hunter, except with only 3 sets. It's just every card that says damage or attack, you just put them in the same deck, and it's kind of good enough. Feels pretty weird to play. Sometimes you say, why am I playing this over Demon Hunter, or over Soul Demon Hunter? And then yesterday I went Fell Saber into Fellsteel Executioner, Twin Slice Bladed Lady, and hit my opponent for 11, and had a 6/6 rush. I won that game.
Pat, it just occurred to me that we should always call these metas Hearthstone 6S.
Because it's like the powered up version.
Yeah. And it's abbreviation for 6-set and also iOS stuff.
I see what you did there. Proud of you. So yeah, and beyond that, there's also, if you want to go lower curve, you can do that too, because Aggro Demon Hunter is kind of back. But look at this list. This list is weird. It's a ton of 1-drops. You do play Fellfire Deadeye, but you play Illidari Studies. And then you do play Polkelt. And you do play Il'gynoth and Ulcerus. So it plays Warblades in the aggro deck. You take out the Dreadlord's Bite that we used to play and you put in Warblades instead. And then sometimes you just hit Il'gynoth and dome them for like 12 or something, I don't know. Or you randomly gain life with the Warblades that you need. So, I don't know. I won a qualifier. I don't know if it's good. I have played very little of this one, but it looks like aggro DH with an Il'gynoth package. It's probably pretty good against Token Druid.
So it's much like in Rage Warrior is right now, in a way, where it's sort of you're playing this aggressive deck, but also sometimes you OTK. And in this case, your OTK is like Il'gynoth and hitting 10 attack damage with Eldrachi Warblades.
And it looks like this lineup was really dialed in to targeting Druid and Paladin. And that makes a lot of sense. Whereas a different way to go, if you want to beat Rogues and Demon Hunters and ban Druids, and sometimes Paladins, you can play this deck. Res Priest. You can play Res Priest.
It's good.
It is.
Palm Reading is a very good card. Palm Reading is even better when it discounts your Insight. And then also your Insight discounts your minion. And yeah.
So you have played this deck, Bot?
Not this version. I didn't play Mana Sabers or Elusias, but it makes a lot of sense to play Elusia if you're might play against an OTK Demon Hunter and don't want to die, because you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I actually, the list I don't think even played Psychopomp, which was interesting. It played the 8 mana, make a 10/10.
Oh,
from your
Body
deck.
or Idol of Yasharash. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also played the 8/8 with Taunt that makes a 5/5 from your deck.
Blood of Gahoon.
Yeah, so it was real big top end. Did not do good against aggro. This probably has a significant better chance against aggro, especially with Hysteria, which you could honestly probably play a very similar list to what was before and just add in Hysterias and be okay. But if you're looking for, like, this is very clearly targeting some very specific decks with when you're playing Mindrender or Lucia in it, so makes sense.
Speaking of
Yeah,
Mindrender Lucia.
It is the core of Monsano's deck, with all the OTKs or OTK adjacent, or just simply like OTK plan Bs in the aggro decks. Monsano made a priest list that is all about Mindrender Elusia. It is the only minion in the deck, so you can Insight for Elusia, or if you've played all of your Cthulhu spells, you can Insight for Cthulhu. To some extent, Cthulhu helps in the Priest Mirror just because you are slower to fatigue. So whether or not you actually get to successfully cast it, you're going to fatigue slower.
He hit rank 1
It's-
legend with this list. Today.
It makes me upset, but that's the kind of meta we're in.
This is...
He named the deck Oof.
Yep.
That's great.
He calls it Sadistic Priest on Twitter. This reminds me of blue-white control from old school Magic days. All you're doing is drawing a card saying go, and then stopping what your opponent is doing. And he originally built this as a counter to OTK-DH, and the way to counter OTK-DH is to make sure you always have Lucy so you can take their Ilgi, and apparently the rest of the shell is good enough, and you just win off of Galakron value or your opponent conceding or Cthulhu or whatever. And if you want to dismantle your opponent's hand, you just lose them.
I didn't tell you too that I lost to a Cthulhu when my opponent had 19 cards left in their deck.
What?
This week.
How?
Sorry.
You got me? They played the last Cthulhu card, and then they drew Cthulhu, and they played it, and I was at 19 or whatever, and I just died.
You never... They didn't even play Insight to draw the Cthulhu? They just drew it?
No, literally just play Cthulhu piece on 9 mana, 10 mana. Oh, hey, guess what I drew? Boom, you're dead. Thanks for playing. That was fun.
Seems good.
Yeah. think they might have drawn like 1 or 2 cards the whole game, like 1 or 2 extra cards the whole game, and I just died. That made me sad. I was not happy about that.
It's good content. All right, but you know what'll make you happy, Botticus? Pirate Warrior. Pirate Warrior.
Oh, it's so nice.
Got
I
a
think the
pirate.
thing that makes me most happy about this is that Ike made it.
Yes.
So I always am a sucker for an Ike deck.
I enjoy
even
a
though
good
most
Ike
of
deck.
them are
Yes.
questionable.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Usually they're yeah, they have their ups and downs. I can't zoom this in correctly. It's not going to capture right. Yeah, this deck looks fun. Looks like a fun deck. I don't think I've actually played this one yet, but it plays Ringmaster Watley and Tent Trasher. How is it, Edelweiss? How is it?
Quite enjoyable. It will give you some old school Pirate Warrior vibes. You've got Imprisoned Ganarg to give you your War Axe on 3 if you get it down turn 1. You've got Sword Eater, also gives you a War Axe. It's just, you're getting your 3/2 weapons consistently, and then you get to upgrade them and Nitro Boost poison them. So it's a lot of hitting your opponent in the face with a weapon. And of course, we have better card draw than Pirate Warrior used to have. Between Cutting Class and Ringmaster Watley, we'll draw Sky Barge, because it's actually a mech unlike the ship's cannon. And it'll also draw Tent Trasher, which is usually only 3 or 4 mana for a 5/5 rush. So pretty good value there.
Seems like he's just role. He seems like he's just role playing a demon hunter.
I mean, pretty much, honestly. But that's what Pirate Warrior was before, anyways. It was just upgrading your weapon a lot so that you could attack every turn with your weapon. And this is
and ignore your hero power.
Yes, ignore your hero power. We do have a surprise appearance of Frothing Berserker once more. Haven't seen my friend in a while, but he's in there. And the Free Pirates, Parachute Brigand, and Dread Corsair.
Yep. Deck looks fun. The combination of Nitro Boost Poison and Cutting Class is pretty powerful. Like, you just draw cards for free all the time.
As well as Nitro Boost Poison plus Deckhand and Corcoran. So plenty of charge damage for this deck.
Yep. Speaking of which, Nitro Crab. Nitro Crab! It's here. It's real. Put 2 Cold Bloods in your deck. Put 2 Crab Riders in your deck. Put 2 Nitro Boost Poison in your deck. Rank 1 Legend! Let's go! Let's get him!
This deck has to be questionable only because if this deck was actually really good, which I'm sure it's good, but if this deck was really good, it would have been way higher on this list because I know Hat loves Cold Blood with a passion.
It won a qualifier. I think it's definitely a little bit newer, and I mean, we've had this structure before, right? And it gets played every expansion. Nitro Boost is obviously a big boost, but Crab Rider is insane with buffs, and so you just get to slam Crab Rider and kill people. I don't know how well it's going to line up against Rage Warrior, which is one of the older decks that I think has seen a really big boost, but I enjoy playing this one, and it's definitely relevant.
You ban in Rage Warrior with this break.
Yes, but on ladder, for example. But yeah, it's solid. And you get to Cold Blood again. And you get to prep it. It's really nice.
Yeah, the one thing that has weirded me out with the Nitro Crab Rogues is that they haven't tended to have sap, and I like to have sap against Paladin.
What are you sapping?
That's sort of like a Scrapyard Colossus or a...
Oh, if you get to 10 mana and you have not killed them, then you have messed up.
Well, no, but if they play Nostormu.
Yeah, but you still... The thing they do then is they tip the scales and then you lose. You have to kill them right away. If they give you 10 mana and then they just play a Scrapyard Colossus, you can punch through a Scrapyard Colossus with no problem and kill them very easily.
I'm just saying I have lost games for not having sap that I would have won with sap.
Yeah, it's the number of actual taunts in this format. There are so few taunts. And if you're including sap because your opponent got to 10 mana, like, that's the only situation I can think of where sap is relevant. There are so few taunts in this format. Maybe if Res Priest picks up again.
I find this list questionable because it has this card called Preparation, when we have this other card called Foxy Fraud that gives you a 3/2. And I understand why you would not put Foxy Fraud, but in my opinion, I think that Foxy Fraud would be a very good addition to this deck.
Yeah, I think...
Mainly so I don't have to keep Preparation in my opening hand.
You usually don't keep Prep, but I think that Prep is much better in this deck because of Secret Passage. Like, you really don't want to... you don't keep Prep in an aggro deck. It's not Miracle Rogue.
I just want it to be known.
Yeah, okay.
That Hat said this on the podcast.
Yeah, you only keep Prep when I'm keeping Fishy Flyer. Mozaki Mage.
It's like a terrible combo.
Yeah, it's very efficient. So Mozaki Mage.
Wait, but sometimes you keep Prep so you can corrupt your Nitro Boost Poison.
Yes, you can do that. Yeah, like Prep turn and then a 1-drop. Is like a 1-mana minion. Really nice. You can do that.
Did you miss your own pun?
No.
Or did you do that on purpose?
I did that on purpose.
Okay.
Yes. Mozaki Mage, dead draw hit rank 2 with it. Most people will not have that win rate. It is like below 40% win rate on HS Replay. It's fun. It's probably not very good. But when you lose to it, you'll remember those games. And I think it was Appa who posted a replay today where he lost to it on turn 5. Which is fast. So there are a couple decks here that I think have gotten a lot better that I've seen a lot of on the ladder, and that's in Rage Warrior and OTK Demon Hunter. Edelweiss, why do you think these decks have gotten so much better?
Well, in Rage Warrior, it's definitely Nitro Boost Poison. So with all the weapons that we've got going on from our 4-mana Pirate Friend and Corsair Cache, and Rage Warrior for a while now has only been running one Corsair Cache, so that you can draw Ankar and your other weapon, which it's been preference for people whether they like the cleave weapon or the lackey weapon. I'm a fan of the cleave because particularly with Nitro Boost Poison, getting a 6-mana cleave in is really, really good. But Nitro Boost Poison, now that we've got all these weapons, lets you get free cutting classes. It also pairs extremely well, even uncorrupted, with Warmaul Challenger, who, has remained a very strong card throughout all of this. But if you ever get the chance to have a 1/8 or 1/9 Warmaul Challenger, I'll sometimes just run it out on 3 as a 1/10. That body is super, super good for this deck because now, in addition to Inner Rage plus Shield of Honor, you have Nitro Boost Poison at your disposal to buff it up, maybe make a copy with Mercenary. You can have some very explosive starts in that way and run away with things. And then if things go longer and you have managed to hold on to all your cards, you now can have a full OTK with Corcoran, Inner Rage, double Shield of Honor, and Nitro Boost Poison, and then make a copy with Mercenary. You actually can get to 30 damage, or I think it's like 20, it's like 28 or 32, depending on if you have one or both Inner Rages. Is that right?
It's a lot of damage. I don't...
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know the exact number. I died at 26 today because they had Corcoran, I think it was what? Corcoran, Inner Rage, Shield of Honor, Bloodsworn it, and hit me with the Reaper side. That was 26. I think they can do more. They can do a lot. Yep. And OTK Demon Hunter, from what I've seen, just the addition of Illidari Studies has made such an enormous difference. You can find the philosophy if you need it. It makes you a lot faster. You can find another I-Beam. You can find card draw. You can find a Consume Magic. It's felt really powerful in that deck. Where the only really bad outcome is like File Fiend Trainer. The 5/4 that makes 2 1/1s. And like even sometimes you take the 5/3 rush that's immune if you outcast it this turn. You don't want that, but sometimes you can take it and it can still work.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's the only new card that is playing in that deck, but like it's really it makes a
It
big
just-
difference.
It's such a boon to the deck because of its versatility. You can find an answer that you need in the moment, such as Stelinaing away your opponent's Allura. That happened to Liquidox
Yep.
at one point. Finding, some kind of removal against an aggro deck. Finding an I-beam when you had to spend one earlier. It just gives you access to a lot of really powerful tools, and because of the nature of card generation adding to the right side of your hand, outcast cards are powerful because they're not always going to be outcast, but off of this card, they're always going to be outcast.
But one thing. This is something you need to make sure you don't do. If you're on 6 mana, and you have a Skull on the right, and an Illidari Studies in your hand, don't play the Studies first. I can't say for sure where I learned that. But
Just get another skull.
He could do that.
Yeah, just get another skull.
Could get another skull.
If I'm looking at this list, to sum up, what I would say is 1 mana spells are very powerful.
Correct.
2 mana rush minions are very powerful.
Also correct.
That's my summation of this list. It's not a perfect summation.
Oh, of
but
all the decks we talked about.
yeah, just in general, 1 mana spells, very powerful. 2 mana rush minions, very powerful.
And also Priest.
Yeah, whatever, priest.
Illus, yeah.
Yes. Priest just kind of does things. Yeah. And we included the Prime Warlock list for fun. All right. We looked over all the decks. We talked about this format. We played this format. Do you think this format needs nerfs? If so, how quickly and what would you hit? Botticus.
Do I think that they need nerfs, or do I think that they will nerf?
Tell us what you
those
think
are
is going to
slightly-
happen.
Slightly different questions, and I would say I don't know that they need nerfs, but I think that they will nerf things. I feel fairly strongly that we will get changes. I don't think that we will get them as soon as maybe some people would want them, but I would expect there to be changes in a couple weeks. Mainly probably to shake things up, because I think things will eventually flatten out a bit, and one of these decks will reign supreme, and most people will be playing it, and we'll probably get some adjustments in there. But I don't know that there necessarily needs to be a nerf at this point, but I do expect them to be on the horizon.
Italy.
Yeah, I would say sometime in maybe a couple of weeks from now. I think 1 would be too soon because things just started to explode, but probably 2 weeks. We'll at least get an announcement of something. Allura going to 5 seems like a thing they might do.
Yeah. That's the nerf
Just
that
because-
stands out to me. Like, that would be the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I think that's the easy one. I don't know how you nerf Illidari Studies. That's something that I think is just like, it's unfortunate because you would have to break the cycle to put it to 2 mana.
I would nerf other
And
cards. No TK Demon Hunter if I were nerfing cards. Like, just make Il'gynoth cost
Right.
5.
And I feel like Illidari Studies will resolve itself later on once there are more outcast cards in the pool.
And we don't know if Consume Magic and I-Beam are sticking around.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that there's a common trend among players, especially in this day and age, to talk about nerfs right away when something is good. Just because they've started moving so much faster that it's the common player reaction of, when are they going to nerf this anytime something is good? I remember people talking about Mozaki Mage nerfs the weekend that Scholomance came out. Didn't end up needing a nerf. So I don't want the conversation to be framed around nerfs quite yet. I do think that there is a lot of merit to the Allura conversation just because it's such an incredible performance outlier in a deck that's doing well right now. But this is fun at the moment. Maybe not for everybody, but it is for me. There's a lot of variety. There's other things to do in the client when I get bored. I'm glad that Hearthstone is varied and that a 35 card mini set actually did what they wanted to do, which is inexpensively change the meta in a significant way. For $15 or 2,000 gold a player, and I'm way ahead of my gold earnings last set now. Way ahead. I'm over 10k already. It's for the even spending the 2k, I'm still ahead. It's the goal of changing things up without it being based around nerfing cool things really, I think, went well. And so I'm glad that this is the direction they're going in. It's more interesting than 6-set metas have been that I can remember in a while without being permanently damaging to the power level of the format that they need nerf when the 4th set comes out. Like, maybe we'll see when the next set comes out, but KNC, when that was released, they needed to work to nerf things in Witchwood to make Witchwood relevant. I don't know if that's going to be the case with this, because all of the cards rotating out from Rise of Shadows and Saviors and DoD and Galakrond's Awakening are going to be so impactful, not to mention maybe Classic, maybe Basic, Demon Hunter Initiate, maybe Hero Powers rotating out. I don't know. Who knows? But no idea. I'm glad they're moving this way, and so I don't think the conversation needs to be based around nerfs, but rather about how the meta adjusts. But I expect they'll hit Allura. I expect they'll hit a Warrior card, and I do expect that 19.6 will be the next major patch. I expect that to come out probably the Tuesday after BlizzCon line, and I expect it will include new stuff to do and nerfs, which would place that patch at, that is Tuesday, February 23rd, which is in just under a month from now. They could do a nerf patch in 2 weeks if they wanted to, if they felt they needed to. I don't know if they feel they need to. But if they don't, then I expect Tuesday, February 23rd, which is right after BlizzCon line.
Cool.
All right. Well, that's a show. So, hey, we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at coincade.com. You can find our show notes, our contact info, and our patron information. You can monitor or support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch, twitch.coinconcede.com. Also subscribe to Edelweiss's Twitch. She's streaming now. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, at coinconcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/coinconcede. Like some CC swag, shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number 30, Tenor Wizard, Tony S, Doge TK, Proby1, Dr. Feesh, Boopty Boop, Pat T, and Kresh. So many producers, oh my goodness. I think the second one, Botticus. We have to give big thanks to Spine for the bits and Proby1 for the 5 gifted subs during the show. Thank you so much, everyone, for the support. Botticus, who are your coin concedes?
So I would like to coin concede to, I believe it's pronounced Niha from the Discord. She is a very high-rated Battlegrounds player that has taken a bit of break and decided to play some Path of Exile. So I was like, oh yeah, get more people in here. And I gave her a bunch of gear, and I was like, don't worry about all the other stuff, because there's way too, like, you want to talk, if you think Hearthstone has a lot of mechanics, let me tell you about Path of Exile.
There's a lot
unreal.
going on. There's a lot going on.
There's too much going on, so just ignore all that, level through the story, have fun. It's a fun game. I definitely recommend it. But she started playing, and I hope she is enjoying herself. And then also coin concede to my coachings, who I waited a very long time to message and are being very flexible. So thank you to them.
Edelweiss?
Yeah, same for me. Coin concede to my coachings. I believe it was Boopty Bop, Joaquin, Kresh, and Dr. Feesh.
An itinerant
Yeah.
wizard?
Yes, and haven't done his yet, but also itinerant wizard. We've got scheduled for Sunday. But all just, our community is so great, and I always have a wonderful time just talking with people. I think Crash and I talked like well into the night over just like random stuff after the coaching was done. So, just been having a great time hanging out with the community.
Word. Good answers. I would like to concede Angry Chicken for having me on. Thanks, Garrett and Joss. PC Gamer for having me on their website. Thanks, Tim. Courtney Vinaeus. She's the voice of Dusa and Aphrodite, and she guested on my Hades podcast last week, and she's super nice. So thanks to that. And then Rare and No Hands Gamer and Dexter. There was another episode of Hearthstone Jeopardy today. right before the show, actually, and got to play against No Hands Gamer and Dexter. Was a lot of fun. Yes, I won again, the second time.
But spoiler alert, it was not close.
Yeah, I know things. I don't know, but a lot of fun to hang out with those guys always. And you know, it was enjoyable. So thanks, Aaron, for putting that out. That'll do it for our show. So keep calm and ride the crab. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll see you soon.